Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. It's actually Friday for us since we have our long weekend coming up. I'm going to read the next chapter in the Trumpet of the Swan. We're in chapter 16, and this chapter is called Philadelphia. Lewis worked all the last week of September for the Swan Boatman in the Boston Public Garden. He was a great success and was becoming famous. On Saturday, the boatman paid him $100 in cash, which Lewis placed carefully in his money bag. The boatman, after paying the first night's bill at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, decided to let Lewis sleep on the lake instead of in the hotel. And this suited Lewis better. He slept with the ducks and the geese on the lake, floating gracefully on the surface of the water, his head tucked under his wing. Lewis took good care of his trumpet. He kept it polished, and once a week he cleaned the spit out of it. He learned new songs whenever he could by listening to people's radios and by attending concerts. He was very good at remembering music he had heard. He was really a natural-born musician, or in his case, a natural-hatched musician. One song he liked was Beautiful Dreamer, Wake Unto Me. Whenever he played it, he thought of Serena, and always, when he finished, the passengers on the Swan boat clapped loudly and cheered. Lewis liked the applause. It made him feel light-hearted. Sometimes, at the end of the afternoon, Lewis played Now the Day is Over. He made it sound sweet and sad. One afternoon, when he was leading the last trip of the day, he played the Cradle Song by Brahms. The passengers sang the words, Lullaby and Good Night. A boy in the front seat of the boat pulled an air rifle from under his jacket and began shooting BB shots at Lewis's trumpet. Whenever a shot hit the horn, it made a ping sound. So the Cradle Song sounded something like this. Lullaby, ping, and good night, ping, ping. The children on the boat roared with laughter when they heard this, but the grown-up passengers were angry. One of them seized the boy's rifle. Another went home that night and wrote a letter to the Boston Globe urging a stronger gun control law. On some afternoons, at the end of the day, people gathered on the shores of the lake to listen while Lewis played taps. It was a beautiful scene, a memorable hour. The Swan boat had never enjoyed such popularity or made such a lot of money for the owner. But Lewis knew that the boats would not run all winter. In a few days, the boats would be hauled out for the season to wait quietly for the arrival of spring. One day, when Lewis was waiting for the boat to take its passengers aboard, a Western Union messenger boy appeared on a bicycle. "I have a telegram for the Swan," he said. The boatman seemed surprised, but he took the telegram and handed it to Lewis, who opened it promptly. It was from a man in Philadelphia. The message said, "Can offer you $500 a week for a nightclub spot, 10-week engagement. Please reply. Signed, Abe Lucky Lucas, Hotel Nemo." Lewis did some quick figuring. $500 a week for 10 weeks? That was $5,000. $5,000 would easily pay his father's debt to the music store. He took his slate and wrote, "Offer accepted. Arrive tomorrow. Meet me at Bird Lake in Zoo. Splashdown will be at 4:52 p.m. Hope this will be a convenient time for you." Lewis showed the message to the Western Union boy, who copied it on a telegraph blank. "Send it collect," wrote Lewis. The messenger nodded and rode away. Lewis stepped back into the water, the boat lines were cast off, and Lewis led the way. He knew it was his last appearance with the Swan boat, and he felt a little sad. It was a warm, quiet Sunday afternoon, the last Sunday in September. Lewis played all his favorite tunes, Lazy River, Beautiful Dreamer, Oh Ever in the Greening Spring, Now the Day is Over. And then, as the boat neared the dock, he raised his trumpet and blew taps. The last note echoed from the walls of the Ritz and lingered over the public garden. It was a sad farewell. For the people of Boston, it meant the end of summer. For the boatman, it meant the end of the best week of business he had ever had. For Lewis, it meant the end of another chapter in his adventurous life, out in the big world, trying to earn enough money to get his father and himself out of trouble. Lewis slept peacefully that night, being very careful that his money bag was safe. The next day he flew to Philadelphia to keep his appointment with Mr. Lucas, the man who had sent his telegram. Lewis had no trouble finding Philadelphia. Almost anyone can find Philadelphia who tries. Louis simply rose into the air with all his things around his neck, and when he was about 1,000 feet high, he followed the railroad tracks to Providence, New London, New Haven, Bridgeport, Stamford, Greenwich, Port Chester, Rye, New Rochelle, Pelham, Mount Vernon, and the Bronx. Then he saw the Empire State Building. He veered off to the right, crossed the Hudson River, and followed the railroad tracks to Newark and Trenton and Point South. At 4:30, he reached the... I don't know how to say that word. A river. He reached a river. Just beyond, he spied the Philadelphia Zoo. Bird Lake looked very attractive from the air. It was crowded with waterfowl of all kinds, ducks and geese mostly. Louis thought he also saw 2 or 3 swans. He circled, picked up an open spot, and exactly at 4:52 he splashed down. His trumpet banged against his slate knocked into his metal rapped against his chalk pencil, and his chalk pencil on its string wound itself around its money bag. All in all, the splashdown caused quite a commotion. The ducks and geese were not expecting anything like this to happen. A big white trumpeter swan dropping out of the sky loaded with personal possessions? Louis paid no attention to the other birds. He had a date to keep. He saw a man leaning on the wide railing in front of the birdhouse. The man was dressed in a purple suit and wore a purple hat. His face looked shrewd and wise, and though he knew a great many things, many of them not worth knowing. That must be Abe Lucky Lucas, thought Louis. He swam over. "Kahoo," he said through his trumpet. "My pleasure," replied Mr. Lucas. "You are right on time. The splashdown was sensational. Welcome to the Philadelphia Zoo, which crawls with rare mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fishes, including sharks, rays, and other fish-like vertebrates. Watch out for wild animals. This place is swarmed with them." And here's a picture of Mr. Lucas leaning up against the cage with the tree. You can see some birds up there as well. All right. So this place is full of them. Snakes, zebras, monkeys, elephants, lions, tigers, wolves, foxes, bears, hippos, rhinos, woodchucks, skunks, hawks, owls. I seldom come here. My work confines me to the throbbing heart of the city, among the money changers. I am under great pressure from my work. How was your trip from Boston? Smooth, wrote Louis on his slate. I made good time. What about my job? A happy question, replied Mr. Lucas. The job will start on October 15th. The contract has been finalized. Your place of employment is a nightclub of great renown across the river, a place of high fashion and low prices, a jumpy joint. You will be called upon to make appearances each evening except Sunday and play your trumpet for the happy customers. Once in a while you can join a jazz group. Louis the Swan on trumpet. The pay is very good. My spirits are lifted by thinking about the pay. Wealth and happiness are around the corner for Louis the Swan and Lucky Lucas, the great of heart. My agent's fee is 10%, a mere small percentage. How do I get to the nightclub? Asked Louis, who only understood about half what Mr. Lucas was saying. In a taxicab, replied Mr. Lucas. Be at the north entrance of the zoo, Giraffe Avenue and 34th Street, at 9 o'clock on the evening of October 15th, a night that will live in memory. A cab will wait your pleasure and will transport you to the club. The driver is a friend of mine. He, too, is under pressure from his work. Who's going to pay for the cab? Asked Louis on his slate. I am, replied Mr. Lucas. Lucky Lucas, the generous of heart, pays for the cab for Louis the Swan. And by the way, I see you are wearing a money bag that is plump with moolah. I suggest, from the kindness of my great heart, that you turn this money bag over to me for safekeeping during your stay in Philadelphia, a place of many thieves and pickpockets. No, thank you, wrote Louis. I will keep my money bag myself. Very well, said Mr. Lucas. And now there is one other small matter I must bring to your attention. Most of the birds that swim on this luxury lagoon have undergone surgery. Cantor compels me to tell you that the tip of one wing is usually removed by management, a painless operation, popular with zoos all over the world. Pinioned is the word for it. I believe. It detains the water bird and prevents him from leaving the narrow confines of the public park and rising into the air, because when one wing is shorter than the other, the balance of the bird is upset. His attempt to take off would be crowned with failure. In short, he can't fly. Sensing in advance how you would feel toward having the tip of one of your powerful wings removed, I approached the man in charge of birds and laid before him a proposition. He has agreed not to clip your wing. It is arranged. He is a man of honor. Your freedom of movement is assured. You will not be pinioned. But in return for this great favor on the part of the management of the Philadelphia Zoo, you are to give a free concert here at the lake every Sunday afternoon for the people of Philadelphia, who come here to refresh themselves. Is that a deal? Yes, wrote Lewis. I will give the Sunday concert. Good, said Mr. Lucas. Farewell for now. Be at the north entrance at 9, October 15. A cab will await you. Play well, sweet Swan. You will be the finest thing that ever happened to Philadelphia since the Constitutional Convention of 1787. Lewis didn't understand this, but he nodded goodbye to Mr. Lucas and swam off toward the island in the center of the lake. There he stepped ashore, straightened his things, preened his feathers, and rested. He was not sure he was going to like his new job. He was not sure he liked Mr. Lucas, but he needed money badly, and when you need money, you are willing to put up with difficulties and uncertainties. One good thing about the whole business is the zoo itself. It seemed like an extremely nice place in spite of what he had heard about having your wing clipped. Lewis had no intention of having his wing clipped. I'll sock anybody who tries that on me, he said to himself. He was pleased to see so many other water birds. There were many kinds of ducks and geese. In the distance, he saw 3 trumpeter swans. They were old residents of the lake. Their names were Curiosity, Felicity, and Apathy. Lewis decided he would wait a day or two before making their acquaintance. Bird Lake has a fence around it. When the night came for him to start work, Lewis polished his trumpet, put on all of his things, flew over the fence, and landed at the north entrance. He was there promptly at 9. The taxicab was there, waiting, just as Mr. Lucas had promised. Lewis got in and was driven away to his new job. The next chapter, chapter 17, is called Serena. So I wonder what's going to happen there. Whew, we're getting close to the end. Right now we're on page 178, and the last page is 252. So we have about 75 pages left. All right, I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I will speak to you all soon. See you later.